Hello friends, for today's video I wanted to give a list of some adult fantasy works with adult main characters. I've done the same style video a couple of times before, so if you are looking for more recommendations after seeing today's, then I'll have those other two videos in the description bar down below. For today, just like with those, in order for books to qualify to be on this list, they can't just have characters that are adults that exist within the story. The adult characters themselves have to actually, one, have their own perspectives, and they have to fulfill what I think the whole purpose of this video should be, which is that they are showcasing people that are in different stages in their lives than what you typically find within not just young adult fantasy, which I do think it's really important and fantastic that we do have a whole age range dedicated to making sure that young people and their experiences are represented in stories. But while that exists and it's great, a lot of times in adult fantasy you still have young protagonists and you have them specifically going through certain aspects in their lives that are rooted in their ages. So for example, you have Fitz and Farseer. These books that we've come to associate with being kind of fantasy staples, they often still have characters at a younger stage in their lives. It does feel like it can be kind of difficult sometimes to find the characters that are outside of that stage in their life. So that's what we're focusing on today. Kicking it off, and the reason I wanted to do this video again is because of this first one, which would be Race the Sands. I don't know whether this video is going to go up first or my dedicated video talking about this author's works, but likely this will have already been talked about recently or is going to be talked about in a video coming up. But Race the Sands was fantastic. So first and foremost, you should just check this out because it's really good. But the setup for the story, when I saw the premise, I thought, that doesn't sound that interesting. And the setup is that you are following this woman who used to have a very good reputation as basically a coach for racers. Racers have these creatures that they ride that are known as Keyhawks, and these beings are among the lowest of the low within their society. Our main character, she was somebody who had this reputation of being a great racer and also being a great coach, and then something happened and now she's kind of lost everything and she's just barely scraping by. You already are seeing her later in life. She's kind of lost everything she's earned and worked for, and she's having to try and build herself back up. But on top of that, she's a mother, so she really cannot allow herself to slip, because if she does, if she loses her income, or if she loses even some of her income, she is going to basically have her daughter taken away from her. And there's a lot more to what's going on with that and the world building and the religion of their world. Regardless, this main character, she is not just a mama bear. She's not just willing to do whatever she has to do to protect those she cares about, but she is just somebody who felt like such a real character. She's a little bit rough around the edges, but in a way that I found really endearing. I adored her, and then I also really enjoyed some of the other perspectives. You actually get a full range of different characters in this, different personalities, different ages, and I think that how all of them came together, the kind of found family you get and the literal family that you get in this, was fantastic. I am not a fan of racing plot lines, nor am I necessarily, I don't know what it is, because I love mentor-mentee, but there's something about coach and the person that they're coaching, in this case they're racers, there's something about that typically doesn't draw me in, especially because I'm like, how is that going to relate that much to a cool fantasy story? It does. I promise it does. It was so good. And I found when I first started it, I was thinking, I don't know. Even it wasn't just the premise that I was unsure about, but when it first started, I thought, well, the stakes feel like they're going to be kind of small. Oh yeah, she's down on her luck. Okay. It gets way more epic than I was expecting, and it's a standalone, and it's great. Highly recommend. If you also, when you first pick it up, feel like it's not quite clicking for you, maybe it doesn't sound that interesting, and of course if it doesn't, then don't pick it up, because I want people to always pick up what sounds good to them. But this is one that I think you might have to push through a little bit, because I think it gets better and better as it builds and builds. Next up, we have Fireborn Blade. This is one that I picked up rather recently, and this one I'm specifically having on this list because the main character is somebody who, actually similar to the main perspective in Race the Sands, has lost pretty much everything as a result of her profession being taken from her, her status, I should say, being taken from her. So she still has all of the capabilities that she had within her profession, which is that she was a knight. So now, in order to try and gain her honor back, she is going to use her area of expertise to try and slay a dragon. And within the dragon's lair, she's going to try and find this mythical item known as the Fireborn Blade and bring it back so that she can restore her honor. As a result of working so hard for everything that they used to have, when it's all taken away, they don't really know what to do anymore, and they're sort of desperate to gain that back. And in a really bizarre way, I think a lot of people have had at some point, this is actually kind of a sad thing to touch on, but I think a lot of people at some point have unexpectedly lost their jobs and have found themselves unsure what to do and where to go from there. And just the fact that our character, while not a direct relation to that idea, I still think there's something that is very relatable in finding a character who they had their dream job. They did it, they achieved it, and then everything was taken away from them. And now they have to scrape by just to try and have a chance at a future. And what they're willing to do to try and get this future back for themselves. This future back was kind of like an oxymoron, but what they're trying to do to get the life they had back is, I think, something a lot of people can definitely relate to. After that, we have Can't Spell Treason without T. This is kind of like Legends and Lattes, but I definitely think there are aspects to it that make it stand out on its own. So you follow these two women who have decided that they are going to try and open up a tea shop pretty much in the middle of nowhere. One of these women previously was a guard, and then after going through a harrowing experience, realizes that her life means absolutely nothing to the queen, who is the person that she is dedicated to. And she realizes, wow, I mean nothing to this woman, and I've dedicated everything to them, and I don't want to do that anymore. She decides she's going to leave that life behind, and she is going to try and start this tea shop and bookshop with somebody who is one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful, magic user currently alive. So these two are together, and their relationship is, I have to say, very cute, and it's very refreshing to see characters that are already together. We get that so rarely, and as much as I love watching characters in stories get to know each other, fall in love, all those things, it is nice to see a couple that's actually together. I know in doing videos where I ask all of you your thoughts on things, when I did the From Readers, specifically that topic in association with what we want more of in stories, one of the things a lot of people pointed out is they want couples that are already together because they want to see them navigate a relationship that has formed, that is established, but they want to see it in its later stages. So it's not just within this recommendation in this video. I'm not just recommending this because these characters are adults, but that alone, that part of their relationship that they've already been together and they've learned how to work with each other, how to communicate with each other, how to express themselves. I think that that's done really well, and I can't think of too many other stories I've seen that portray this. But on top of all of that, I think both characters, both perspectives, have aspects to their stories that a lot of people can connect with. First off, I was talking about before how there's the idea of, I had my dream job, but then it got taken away from me, so what am I going to do now? And then there's also, with Racist Sands, there's kind of like, my reputation's ruined, and there's things associated with your job. This one, again, is kind of associated with your job, but it's like a big, scary change. What am I going to do when I finally decide, you know what? I've dedicated so many years of my life to this profession, and I don't want to do this anymore. I want to start fresh. I want to do something new. And how scary that is, but also how brave and courageous it is to take that next step. I think that's so relatable, and that's not just specific necessarily to later stages in life. This can happen in most stages of life. So I think this is something a lot of people are going to connect with. The other character is somebody that, because they are such an important figure in their society, they have all these pressures to always live up to this. And sometimes they just want the simple things in life. And I think if you are somebody who has gotten to a place where you maybe have a lot of respect granted to you, but you never really feel like you get to know people, you don't feel like people really see you as a person, they see you as this figure, then I think that that character's perspective might be really relatable. At the end of the day, this is very cute, and if you are a fan of cozy fantasy and you are a fan of Legends and Lattes, then I think that this particular story is one that you're going to probably like. Next up, we have Emperor's Edge. When I talked about this book in a self-published fantasy wrap-up, I mentioned that to me this almost feels like new adult, and not in the way that some of us think, because I think new adult has this idea that pops into our head that's more so associated with characters being college-aged and exploring themselves in more adult ways that you don't really get to do when you're younger. And that's not what I'm talking about. I am specifically referring to in this a character who I'm realizing a lot of what I'm talking about today is job related. So take that for what you will. But we have a character specifically, and she is somebody who is very loyal and very dedicated to her job, and she's very by the books, and she is so good at everything she does. However, their society is very sexist, and she is a woman in a profession that is primarily dominated by men, and they definitely are not allowing her to be promoted when she absolutely deserves to be. She has earned it. She's worked very hard for it, but she's having to face these obstacles. And regardless of what obstacles you've faced in life, I'm sure there are times that so many of you were the best candidate for something, but because of whatever outside circumstances were playing a role, you didn't get to have that next thing that you deserved. I think that's something a lot of people can relate to. This particular character, though, it really is kind of like she deserves to be higher up in her career because she's worked for it and she's paid her dues and it's not being given to her. The general setup for this, though, is this is gas lamp fantasy. So you're looking at a slightly more futuristic, not futuristic based off of modern day, but futuristic based off where you usually see fantasy taking place. You're looking at a slightly more futuristic society, which I already thought was really unique and different from what we typically find. And this character, because she's so dedicated and because she's also a little bit desperate to get that promotion that she really wants, she decides to take on a job that she probably shouldn't take on. It's very top secret. The Emperor himself, if she does this, it's like it gets her closer to that person. And the particular task that she is given is to try and track down an assassin and take them out. However, things do not go according to plan, and suddenly she's finding herself allying with the very assassin that she was supposed to take out. And then that's when she is realizing that perhaps there is corruption within her own country, and she's having to fight that corruption and try to save the Emperor from the outside, all while everybody is after her. It's a lot of fun. I will say, the cover of this and this series in general is not my favorite cover, but obviously don't judge a book by its cover. This story was a lot of fun. After that, we have Woing Flame. I could have sworn that I had talked about this in relation to adult fantasy works with adult characters, but I guess I haven't. And the character in this that I'm specifically referring to would be the character of, they call her Vintage, and Vin for short. And this character is so delightful. She is the one who everybody else is always flipping out about everything. You have a character there's a character who is kind of prissy, and then you have another character who is not at all, but she's kind of reckless, and then this character is cool, calm, and collected and charming, and she's just so delightful and cool, and she keeps the team together. In a sense, she's kind of like the mom of the group, but not, I don't know what it is about her. She just knows how to kind of get everybody together and rally everybody and make there be this general sense of optimism felt, like we can do this, we can go forward. And she's just awesome. She's just so cool. And you need her. You need her level-headedness and her cool factor when you have these other characters that you're like, come on, everybody calm down and just focus. What makes her, I think, really compelling, though, is her main motivation in her work. So I have described Woing Flame before many a time. This is a bizarre sci fantasy world where it is clear that there have been wars in the past, but you don't really know who or what the threat was to mankind during these wars. And so Vintage is using her wealth to try to research more about these wars so that in the event that this threat comes again, that mankind will be prepared, which is a pretty heavy task to take upon herself. However, she has her own personal reasons why she wants to learn more and why she wants to go on these expeditions. And I think that in and of itself is, I don't want to reveal too much about it, because learning more about this character and what motivates her, I think, is part of what makes her discovery as a character and her arcs really interesting. And also that arc through the progression of the trilogy, so good and also so infuriating. But I can't say too much else because I don't want to give anything away. That's it, though, for some additional adult fantasy works with adult characters. I will have all these linked in the description bar down below in case you'd like to check any of them out for yourself, as well as those other 2 videos where I have, I think, at least 10 recommendations in both of the other 2 videos, so for a total of over 20. And if you have any of your own recommendations, of course, feel free to leave those in the comments down below. That way anybody that comes to this video doesn't just have my recommendations, but yours as well. But thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.